Hello, I'm Chuck Fulp, South Alabama Home Inspections. Welcome to another edition of Southern Home Talk. And so here I go again with the mold issue. And this one is going to be in a pantry closet. And your kitchen is really vulnerable to moisture for many reasons. Your dishwasher, coffee pot, your sink. And also, if you have a range hood that's not vented to the exterior of the home, that's a big problem because that needs to expel the moisture out of the kitchen when you're cooking, that sort of thing. And a lot of these newer houses don't have externally vented range hoods, and that's a problem. And so I highly recommend that be a high priority that you actually make your range hood ventable to the exterior. For that reason and many others, I actually have an episode on them. I'm trying to keep this episode short. So that's a problem. But let's get back to this here. And if you live in South Alabama, you're going to have a mold problem. That's just almost a guaranteed thing because of the amount of moisture we have here. There's just no getting around it. And we have a lot of the products in our home, or components of it, are built of materials that are real vulnerable to it. And so we're looking at drywall, which has a paper surface, and it's the perfect food source for mold. Now, you have these mold remediation companies that are out there, and I would say if you have a real bad problem, you might want to contact them. But me personally, I think that testing of this and having it sent off to find out what it is kind of pointless. I mean, it is what it is. And also, if you're going to do this yourself, and you can, I mean, that's what I do. I do my own mold mitigation because, I mean, I'd have a mold company here all the time if I didn't. And what I use is this concrobium. I'm using a UV light here. By the way, that's what this is. But I use concrobium mold control, and this has been the most effective product I've used so far against it. And the worst product you can use are the ones that claim that can do the best with it, and that's or bleach, or any other type of cleaner that states will kill mold or clean mold. And you want to read the ingredients on that bottle. And if it says sodium hypochlorite on there, that's going to be the worst thing you can use on mold inside the home, because it will actually kill the mold, but it won't kill the spore, and will come back worse than it initially was. Now, this may be okay using outside, but that's the thing. Basically, all bleach is, Clorox is actually a brand name, it's sodium hypochlorite. That's what it is. And so the way concrobium works is it works a whole different way, and that's why I recommend it. I mean, you can actually make some stuff that will work too, but it's just really the path of least resistance to buy this. And you would spray this down. It comes in spray bottles, and you can also get it by the half gallon and use them in sprayers like that. Is you want to saturate that mold really well with this product and then let it dry, because it's the drying process that kills that mold. And you also want to test it with a moisture meter. You can buy those pretty cheap. I mean, they're like $10 to make sure this is really dry prior to painting it again. And when I performed home inspections in the past, I could see where sellers had painted their bathroom ceilings, and it was just a few days later when I did my inspection, it was bleeding back through. And so they make a primer. You can see it. I'm fixing to put it up here. That's specifically made to paint over mold, but it still has to be dry before you use that primer. And they make another product called M1 that's a paint additive, and it's a fungicide, and it can do a pretty good job of preventing it from coming back. And so anytime you paint ceilings in a bathroom or closets or any other vulnerable areas to mold, those are the two paint products that I recommend that you use. Now, we got to find out why there is a problem in this closet, and it can be one of many reasons, and it can be more than one reason too. That's the thing. We always want to say, what's the one reason? Well, it can actually be two or three going on at the same time, or sometimes more. But my theory is to why there was a problem in this one. As these damp rib buckets, these things work really good, and I highly recommend that you use these in closets, but you can't set it and forget it. And that's what happened in my my opinion in this case. This got buried behind a bunch of cans up there and then forgotten about. And then now, once this filled up with water, now this became the water source for the moisture in this closet. And so I think that's what it is, but it could also be, if you look here, you can see this register there. Well, the ductwork comes pretty close to this. So if the insulation has come off of that, if it's got metal ductwork, well, then the moisture in the attic can condense on that and drip down to this. If your air conditioning unit is in the attic, it can sweat and do this. If you have a condensate line, which if you have your unit in the attic, often I find those are not insulated, those PVC pipe. Well, that's cold water going through there. It'll condensate on that pipe and then drip down that way. You could have a roof leak. There's just all kinds of things that can create moisture in your ceiling areas. A lot of new houses have their plumbing going through the attic. It'll be a pinhole in the PEX pipe. So there's all kinds of things that can create that moisture problem. So if that's what has to be remedied first, is to find out what the causation of it is. Otherwise, it's just going to continue to be a problem. Now, what I'm going to do to expedite this drying process is use this blow dryer here, and that will tell me whether or not that there's another problem with moisture going on the top side, because if it just doesn't dry out, well, then there's something creating moisture on the top side of this and not just what my theory was, being this damp rid. And like I say, closets are the worst areas for this problem, because if you look at it, there's hardly any door clearance at the bottom, and there's no vent in here either, and so there's no way for air to really circulate out of these closet areas. And that's why if I was building a house, I'd have to build it myself, because I've learned a lot over the years about the home science, especially the home science here with houses here on the Gulf Coast. Now, that light right there actually has a UV bulb in it, and it will kill mold. And so I had this on for about 4 hours, shining up against that. But you have to be careful with these UV lights, because they do produce some degree of ozone, and that's a hazardous gas that you can be putting in your home. Just know that as well. For everything you do, there's usually going to be some sort of counter non-good benefit to it. That's the problem. But I will say this concrobium is about the best you're going to be able to do as far as killing mold, and also putting the damp rid buckets in the closets. Just make sure you change them. Might want to put them on your calendar to do that. But it's also pretty interesting to note how fast these things fill up with water. So it's also a good idea to date these as well. So, you may say, my God, this thing filled up in 3 weeks. So now I'll let you know you've got some big time moisture problems going on. But another thing too is to know what the indoor humidity is of your house. Very few people know what their indoor humidity is. And here's an example of that right there. This is a multi-station humidity thing. I got a sensor in the attic and a crawl space and one outside. But the top right there is 45% humidity, indoor humidity. And that's what the humidity should be inside a home. It should be between 45 and 50%. And really no more than 55%, because when you get to that point, that's when you can start having really bad problems with mold setting up inside the home. And the thing about mold is that often you may not see it. And we can see this here, of course, but a lot of mold is just simply invisible. You have white mold, and you would never see that against this drywall. But it's often worse on the back side. So if you're in your bathroom or even your living room, anywhere in a house, and you start seeing black spots on your ceiling or even the walls, chances are it's worse on the back side of it. And usually it is. So anyway, I'm not going to get any more long-winded with this. If you've got any comments and helpful benefit tips, put them in the comments below, because I like to hear them, and it helps all of us, of course. And thanks for taking the time to watch this video, guys. Take care.